I grew up in a small town. Total population was maybe 2,000. Everyone knew everyone else, or at least knew your family members. It was a safe town, with mostly middle-class working families. Nothing major ever happened, and the crime rates were low. I grew up feeling safe and secure. To note, I grew up in the 90s. One summer day, my good friend Jenny and I were out for a bike ride. We were 11 or 12 years old. We were allowed to bike everywhere we wanted, as long as we didn't leave our town and wore helmets. There was a new road being constructed in between the two main neighborhoods. The new road was to provide a shorter way of accessing the main road to get to the next town. At that time, the road was still under construction, but was nearly complete. All that was left was paving and painting. Jenny and I decided to bike down the gravel road. Jenny and I were about halfway down the road. The road was about a kilometer long. At the halfway point, we noticed a man walking. He was early 30s and very handsome. I didn't recognize him, and Jenny didn't either. As we got closer, he broke out in a big smile and said hello. We said hello back, as he didn't seem threatening or scary. He asked us if we were having a good summer, and we said yes. He told Jenny and I he was a photographer from a nearby city and was in town to scout out models for his new postcard company. He said Jenny and I had beautiful features. He said everything in a very flattering way that made us feel special. He said we could be models. He asked if he could take our pictures. He said we had the look he wanted, and the scenery right now is perfect to promote the town. He said he knows he will sell tons of postcards, and we could all make money. Jenny and I eagerly agreed. He got us to stand with our friends on our hips and smile big. He took a disposable camera out of his back pocket and began snapping photos. He took about 10 photos in total, from many angles. I remember feeling a little uneasy and said we should probably go back because we needed to be home soon. He said he would get in touch with our principal on the first day of school to give us some money from the postcard sales. We foolishly confirmed we went to the local elementary school, though it was the only elementary school in town, so it wouldn't be hard to figure out. Neither Jenny or I remember, to this day, giving him our names. This is an important detail for later. Jenny and I talked about becoming famous on the way home. I told Jenny that I wondered why he didn't have a professional camera. She said she wondered that too, but we agreed cameras are expensive, so maybe he didn't have a nice one with him in case it rained. That evening at supper, I told my parents about my potential newfound fame. They were horrified and got on the phone with Jenny's parents. The two sets of parents called police and gave statements. Police sort of downplayed it and said it was unusual, but nothing criminal had happened. My parents had a long talk to me about safety, as did Jenny's parents with her. The following spring, Jenny and I were hanging out together, this time a little older and a little wiser, and a lot more cautious. We were walking along a quiet side street, just talking about music and TV shows. A minivan approached us and slowed down. A friendly-looking woman asked us if we knew where Smith's Road was. We told her she just needed to drive straight for less than a minute, and it's the first right-hand turn. She said she was having difficulty finding it, and if we would mind hopping in and showing her. I instantly said no. Jenny also declined. Then, the woman said it was okay, because she knows who we are. She called us both by our first name and said she saw us on a postcard. By now, we were both freaked out. We were on a stretch of the road that had no houses. The nearest one was about 100 meters away, and it wasn't common for people to have cell phones back then, so neither Jenny or I had one. The woman continued to ask us to get into her minivan. Jenny, who is normally super chatty, was staring into the vehicle intensely. Her body language was stiff, and I could tell she was scared. Suddenly, and seemingly out of nowhere, Jenny screamed, "Run!" I don't know what was happening, but I ran and followed Jenny. We ran off the road, and through a field and into a yard another street over. I recognized the yard and the house as belonging to a school teacher. We pounded on her door and she answered. We told her what happened, and then Jenny said something I'll never forget. She said she saw the photographer man from last summer, crouching down in the very back row of seats. She said she knew something bad was going to happen. Police and our parents were called. We gave statements and a vehicle description, as well as descriptions of the man and woman. Unfortunately, the police were never able to locate them. Jenny and I never saw them again. We had some serious trust issues with strangers after those encounters, and I had nightmares of being kidnapped into early adulthood. Always make sure to teach your children that strangers are not safe, no matter how nice they are. My situation could have had a much more unfortunate outcome if things had gone even slightly different. Those are two people I sincerely hope to never meet again. When I was 17, my bedroom had a window looking out at my backyard. The backyard was fenced in, but on the other side of the fence were some woods and a retention pond. I'd never been scared of this, and kept the blinds open so that when the sun rose in the morning, the natural light would help wake me up. One night, I was up late on my phone with my dog laying in a bed next to me. At around 2 a.m., my dog jumped up and started barking at the window. At first, I thought he was just barking at his reflection and told him to stop, but I then realized he was looking at the left side of the window while his reflection was on the right. I couldn't see outside the window because I had left the lamp on my nightstand on. All I could see in my window was the reflection of my bedroom. Not wanting to alert whatever might be out there that I was scared, I faked a yawn, set my phone aside, and turned off the lamp. I then laid down facing the window, and I swear I saw a set of human eyes looking back at me from the left side of the window. I drink a lot of water at night, so I had an empty bottle on my nightstand. I grabbed it and pretended to just realize it was empty. I turned on the lamp and acted like I was going to get water. I went to my parents' room, and my dad told me not to worry. We had these motion-activated floodlights, and they hadn't turned on, so there was no way anything was out there. I went back to my room and told myself I was just seeing things. I closed my blinds and turned off the lamp and got some sleep. When I woke up in the morning, I went to take my dog out and decided to check out the pine straw bedding underneath my window. It was visibly disturbed. I did my best to ignore that and remember what my dad said about the floodlights. That worked pretty well, until my dad tested the floodlights later that day and found out the bulbs had burnt out. To this day, I keep my blinds closed and my lamp off when I sleep. I don't want to risk anything being able to see me, and if anything is somehow peeking through my window, I want to know it's there. If there was someone at my window that night, let's not meet. Edit. Hey, I just wanted to say thanks to everyone that commented. I typed this out because a project I've been working on caused this memory to resurface. Sometimes just writing something like this down and chucking it into the void helps me deal with it. I'm 22 now, so I'm far enough removed from it that I can mostly just look at it as a weird experience I had. But there definitely is a degree of paranoia left from this and the other things I've dealt with. To everyone who has a similar experience, I hope everything turned out okay and that you're doing well. I've interacted with a few of you in the comments, and you all seem to like strong people. Anyone who does this peeking through windows shit, fuck off. I want to start this off by stating that this is my first ever Reddit post, but I've always loved listening to the stories of the subreddit on YouTube, and I wanted to share my own. For some background info, I'm female, and I was 17 for the time of the story. I used to work at a pizza place in my hometown. The job sucked in many ways, but the worst part about it was that my manager had no problem leaving girls alone to close. Granted, the town I grew up in was small and boring, and many people left their doors unlocked, but I still thought it was risky. On this particular night, I was closing the shop alone at around 10. The last thing I had to do on my way to my car was take the garbage out, and the dumpster as well as my car were located on the side of the building. While I was making my way to the dumpster, I immediately noticed a man making his way towards me from across the shop's parking lot. He's wearing jeans and a black sweatshirt, and he had some sports cap on. Right off the bat, my heart dropped, and I got incredibly nervous. I threw the trash away and began speed walking to my car when this guy says something. "You got a cigarette?" My paranoia told me that question was sketchy as hell, and I struggled to respond for a moment. I just said no and got into my car, hastily trying to get in, and I shit you not, as soon as I closed my door, he booked it to my car and tried to open it. Obviously, I locked it immediately. I instantly started bawling and turned my car on. The man clubbed my window with his fists a few times, without a word, before booking it to get into the nearby streets. I called my mom, and then the police once I got home, and they opened up a small investigation, but could never find the guy. There were no other cases of something like this happening somewhere else in town, and so I think he probably relocated somewhere else to avoid being caught. I really have no clue what that man wanted to do. Sorry if this was kind of lame or anticlimactic, but it's pretty damn scary to me. So to the man who tried to get in my car, let's not meet again. Back in 2016, I was a homeless and drug-addicted teen, living in one of the worst skid rows in North America. The majority of my days were spent doing anything I could to get my fix, and then using it in a park frequented by other vagrants and addicts just trying to get by during the thick of the opioid epidemic. Most of these people were harmless, friendly even, except this one young man. He seemed normal at first, quiet and mild-mannered, but every so often I'd catch him glaring, and his eyes would darken almost empty like a shark's. The hairs on the back of my neck would stand up, and I got a weird feeling in my stomach that something was off. One day, he got into a fight with another kid in the park, and I caught the first glimpse of the monster inside him. He so desperately tried to hide. Fights are never pretty, and I've seen my fair share of them living on the streets, but the rage that exploded from this guy in a mostly verbal brawl was something I had never witnessed in my entire life. Even in a haze, I could sense there was something terribly wrong going on in this man's head. A few months passed, and by then I had found a place to rest my head indoors, and I was watching the evening news. Turns out my gut feeling about this guy was right. He had gone to a neighboring city, stolen booze and a large knife, walked into a high school and ended up murdering a young girl and seriously injuring another. For a while, my mind went through a lot of what-ifs and felt some guilt for not having gone to the authorities with my suspicions. In hindsight, there wasn't really anything I could have told the cops about him besides the off-putting vibe he gave off, and something tells me they wouldn't have taken a junkie seriously anyways. Scary murderer from the park, if you ever get paroled, let's not meet. Hey everyone, I hope you guys enjoyed my narrations. Thanks for listening, and if you guys liked it, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the night or day, and as always, stay depraved.